Greetings and welcome to A Body Like Bruce. Today we are looking at Who Killed Bruce Lee, Collector's Edition, scores of photos of the master in action by the editors of Kung Fu Monthly. Published around 1978. We found it in the public domain, public access, so no copyright infringement was intended. Chapter 1. Writing on the wall. First there were breathing noises, then they stopped, then there was a series of convulsions. The entire body was involved in this motion, but the upper limbs gave us the most difficulty because he was very strong and was difficult to control. It took us 1.5 hours to make Lee conscious. Okay, and the wording here is very small. I'm just going to go through it. It's basically the same as everything else. How he died, etc. What he did in his short lifespan. There he is with Linda Lee and Brandon as a youngster then. In action on Way of the Dragon and Into the Dragon. Sparring with Dan Inocentos. Linda and Brandon. Brandon putting a cute kung fu face. Bruce Lee, Bob Wall and Into the Dragon. Chapter 2. The King is Dead. Lee's body swathed to the chin in white silk lace, stiff and wooden in its bronze coffin, his face grey and distorted despite heavy makeup. A banner overhead proclaimed in Chinese, "A star sinks in a sea of art." There he is in his coffin. And here's the thousands upon thousands coming to catch a glimpse of their fallen star. And there's the police putting up barriers and trying to hold the people back. Here's Linda in the traditional Chinese mourning outfit. There's Brandon and Shannon. Looks like maybe his mother. And Linda. Bruce Lee in action on Into the Dragon with Sammo Hung. Bruce Lee and these supposed allegations that they had something going on, him and Betty Ting Pei. Sticks and stones and bad feng shui. Lee had been Superman, the fittest man in the world with a seemingly invulnerable physique. Now other people were being asked to believe that one tiny pill had achieved what nothing short of a bullet could have possibly accomplished. Here's Raymond Chow being interviewed. And he's escorting Linda possibly to the hospital. Here's Bruce in action, Into the Dragon. Him and Betty Ting Pei. A rear photograph of Bruce with Betty Ting Pei on the set of Way of the Dragon. Bruce's relationship with Betty was the subject of intense speculation. A lot of times Linda was actually on the sets, like Into the Dragon, and she brought Brandon and Shannon along with her. So don't think much hanky panky would have been going on behind the scenes. There he is, Into the Dragon, possibly being interviewed. Here's Betty Ting Pei in her younger days. Run Shaw. That might be Raymond Chow and his wife. Fist of Fury. This is home in Kowloon. John Saxon on Into the Dragon. There he is with Linda. and Chapter 4, Game of Death. His movie making is like his fighting. He just did it. He didn't know until the night before exactly what he was going to do. Then he put it together. He made up the story details as he went along, spontaneously. That's the way Game of Death was. So a lot of it was in his mind, and he just went with it. Here he is with Linda. Bruce in action, using nunchucking. John Saxon again. See scene from Chinese Connection for Fury. No dogs in Chinese allowed, and he kicks the sign and all that sort of stuff. Game of Death. Stills. Him and Dad and Santo sparring again. Many magazines of Bruce Lee. Memorabilia. There he is. Skipping rope. End or epilogue. Him with Yip or Ip Man. Some more shots of Bruce Lee. There's a lot of information there. For some reason we can't expand it, so you can actually see the articles. We don't know why it's that. Usually we can, but we can go through it. We hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, subscribe to our channel, give us a like, add your comments below, and share this 1978 magazine with friends, family and neighbours that were just so awed by the legendary martial artist, film star Bruce Lee. An old memorabilia magazine for the ardent fans. In its heyday, 1978, it was a collector's item. Here's a little bit of information here, what we can read. The next bombshell to rock Soon Wan came on September 17th when Bruce's wife Linda Lee took the stand and confirmed a story widely circulated after Lee's autopsy that her husband had taken cannabis. Surprisingly, in a colony which in 1973 recorded the seizure of 1748 kilos of opium, 399 kilos of morphine and 50 kilos of heroin. Cannabis is still regarded by the Hong Kong police, press and public as a major evil. When cannabis traces had been discovered in Lee's stomach and small intestine during the autopsy, his death was openly attributed to an overdose of the drug. Bruce took cannabis, Linda trumpeted the afternoon papers following Linda's testimony, and for several days the inquest was plunged into debate on the lethal capabilities of cannabis. After the May 10th collapse, Linda told Coroner Dung, her husband had admitted to Dr. Wu of St. Teresa's Hospital that he had taken cannabis that same day. Duffy, did you hear Dr. Wu warn him against it? Linda, he said it was harmful Subsequently, we went to the US to discuss cannabis with a neurologist and have a checkup. The neurologist said that moderate doses were not harmful. The doctors denied the fact that cannabis had anything to do with the collapse of May 20th. Linda asserted that following the first collapse, Lee had taken cannabis only occasionally and that there had been no after effects. In reply to Mr. David Yap, representing the American International Assurance Company, she said Lee had told her that March or April was the first time he had tried the drug. Because of his professional need to keep fit, she added he would not be so foolish to use cannabis more than just occasionally. The cannabis controversy drew to a close when government chemist Dr. Ronald Lamb testified that New Zealand laboratory tests, together with his own examinations, had found only minute amounts of cannabis in Lee's stomach and intestine. Well, they sent his intestines or something, or they did something in New Zealand. Don't think his body was sent there. They just did laboratory tests. And after Professor Ronald Terry of London University's Forensic Medicine Department, who had flown to Hong Kong specifically to give evidence, argued that he considered the cannabis found in Lee's body about as significant as if I had been told Lee had taken a cup of tea or coffee. The issue fizzled out altogether, except for the insistent questioning of Mr. Yap. An escape clause in ALAC insurance policy on Lee's life, variously estimated by the press at between looks like Hong Kong dollars 500,000 and Hong Kong 2 million, signed on January 19, 1973, allowed the company to withhold payment if it was proven that Lee had used narcotics prior to that date. Mr. Yap therefore persistently quizzed medical witnesses about the effects of cannabis and their views on the drug. After the inquest had closed, there were press reports that AIAC had hired a private detective to investigate Lee's drug experiences. The Hong Kong police also probed Lee's drug connections, but after questioning several well-known names in the film industry, they quietly closed their files. As soon as the cannabis saga had run its course, the inquest reverted to a more complex medical analysis of the various prescription drugs Lee had been taking. Although the media continued to report proceedings each day for an audience thirsting after explosive revelations, the courtroom drama became something of a jury non-event. After Betty Ting Pei had come briefly out of hiding, presented her unspectacular evidence, and had been discharged, the public lost interest altogether, and the steel barriers were removed from Sun Wan. In essence, the dozens of pages of medical evidence determined that Lee had regularly used two prescriptions drugs: a painkiller, diloxine, which had been prescribed after he had injured his back in 1968, and the epilepsy control drug, Dilantin, prescribed by Dr. Riceboard following the May 10th collapse. The tablet Equagesic, which Betty Ting Pei had given Lee on the night of his death, was analysed as a compound of aspirin and the drug meprobamate. Testimony was given that Equagesic, a tranquilizer available only on prescription, could prove dangerous if taken with alcohol. Dr. Lamb told the court that he had searched for signs of other drugs in Lee's body, especially Spanish fly, but had found no traces. Dr. R.R. Lysette of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital suggested that hypersensitivity to Equagesic or diloxine had triggered the seizure, causing Lee's brain to swell from a normal weight of 1,400 grams to 1,575 grams. The brain was swollen like a sponge, he said. Professor Tier, who in his 35-year career had performed 90,000 post-mortems and given evidence before 18,000 inquests, supported Dr. Lysette's theory. Lee, he declared, had died from acute cerebral edema, brain swelling, due to the hypersensitivity to either meprobamate or aspirin, or a combination of the two found in Equagesic. Hypersensitivity is, in this case, is very rare indeed, he added. Rare perhaps, but lethal enough to kill a man at the peak of his physical development. On September 24, following a brief discussion on the technical differences between the words accident and misadventure, Mr. Egbert Dung delivered a verdict of death by misadventure. The court and the authorities were satisfied with Professor Tier's argument. The people of Hong Kong were not. Following the sudden and unexpected death of any popular celebrity, there is inevitably rumour and speculation. Consider this article from the New York Daily News of April 24th, 1926, which threw the city into a morbid panic. There flew along Broadway yesterday sinister reports that Rudolph Valentino came to his death by arsenic poisoning. Circumstantial stories told of both jealousy and revenge as the supposed motives. Immediately upon the heels of the first report, Dr. William B. Rawls of Polyclinic Hospital denied formally that he had been poisoned. When the story appeared, it spread through New York like wildfire, even after it had been established that the news had invented the sinister reports to gain ground in a savage circulation war raging amongst the press of that time. The rumours persisted for many months. Times change, but human nature is immutable. Admirers at any place or at any time can scarcely resist the temptations to make jigsaw puzzles out of the private lives of their fallen idols. Apparently Rudolph Valentino had a few lovers, most of them being bisexual or lesbian, one being extremely dominant and all this sort of thing, jealous and so forth. We did look at a archive footage documentary of Rudolph Valentino. There's like 3 or 4 of them. They're all vying for him, but yeah, they're either bisexual or lesbian. Where he apparently wasn't bisexual or gay. Yeah, it was a really good documentary. Okay, so if you like this, then as we stated, subscribe to our channel, give us a like, add your comments below, and then share it with all your family, friends and others who are great fans of Bruce Lee.